Hey everyone, welcome. Great to see so many of you with us today. Today we're going to be doing a really exciting webinar. We're going to be talking about the importance of adding goal fitness to your teaching toolbox. Before we start, one of the key things when it comes to webinars is understanding how it works. Now, most of you are pretty used to working with digital meetings, etc. But if the whole concept of webinars is a little bit new to you, then it's important to understand that you can see and hear us, hopefully. If you can, please use the chat in the bottom corner. You can ask questions throughout the session anytime you like. We might stop and answer the question, or we might let the presentation continue and we'll answer it at the end. Again, if you can just use the chat right now, just say hi. Just want to make sure that you can see us, that you can hear us. But at the end of the day, we can't hear you. So the way you communicate with us will be through the chat. So please do use the live Q&A and the questions piece so I can get an understanding that you can hear us. I'm going to be talking a little bit about Kinexit and so on and so forth. But one of the key things that we do and what we've done is we've partnered with the PGA of Finland. Incredibly excited about that. And we're talking more about it. And now we want to make it incredibly easy and sufficient to help professionals, academies, and clubs provide the fitness component in a great way. Now, we have the opportunity of working with so many different professionals, academies. We've done this throughout the years with all different types of countries. And with us, we've got Henrik Swärdh. Henrik, you've been with us for the past couple of years. Actually, last year, you're working with us. You're giving us so many great feedback. We've been working for many years, and you've been a great user of Kinexit with your players. So we decided to say, hey, would you like to join our team as a customer success manager? And every day of the week, I'm always so glad I make that call because you're an amazing coach, great professional, also a great friend. Welcome aboard.
Thank you, Chris, and hello, everyone. I think I have to start with apologizing for my voice. I know it sounds like I've been partying for a week straight, but I haven't. It's my allergies that are acting up. So I apologize in advance if you can't hear what I'm saying. But I've been working with Kinexit now for almost 3 years. I've been working with golf fitness for the last 15 years, and I've always integrated that into my teaching. I am a teacher based in the south of Sweden. I work with normal club golfers, I work with juniors, and I also work with the Swedish PGA as a teacher within the Swedish training program. So I'm in a lot of different boxes, getting access to both teachers and students. And the number one thing that always comes back is the ability to be able to move. So that for me has always been something that I've been fascinated about. And when I look back into my playing career, I kind of took better care of my physical abilities rather than my hitting a golf ball abilities. So that could be why I'm sitting here now, and I'm not out on the tour, but the interest of integrating golf fitness has always been there. So for me, working with Kinexit and being presented with all these opportunities, it's a thrill. So I'm really, really happy to be on board, Chris.
Well, great to have you. Always like to have our sidekick. And at the end of the day, a little bit about me. My name's Chris Mansson. I started my career as a golf fitness professional, had the opportunity to work with multiple players, all different types of levels, all different types of handicaps and skills, and had also the opportunity to work with multiple professionals where they sent players to me. I saw that there was a pretty interesting gap in the market and founded the company Kinexit. And what we do is basically we're very passionate about working with this holistic approach to golf, where we integrate teaching, equipment, fitness. I mean, we all know that the equipment side, the teaching side is so important. And all of you that are with us today are most likely incredible teachers. We're also really good at changing the specs of clubs and how much the equipment has changed and how much it can help a golfer. But we also know that a backdoor into improving a player is very many times through helping a player move better. But at the end of the day, after working with so many professionals, we know that they can do so much. More and more professionals are kind of moving towards this direction. We see that when it comes to fitness, Sometimes it can be very positive, but if you ask a lot of golfers, it might also be a little bit negative, because we see golf fitness as something we do in the gym. We have to get sweaty, a lot of strength. And at the end of the day, we've got a lot of players that are more of the older generation, maybe seniors to adult golfers. There are weekend warriors, but we still want them to improve. They're also a very big buying group that can help us grow our business. So how can we get these players to improve and hit the ball further, make sure that they have a long career? Now, what we've done is we've done a lot of research and know that with as little as 15 minutes 3 times per week, with doing the right type of drills, things that they can do at their house or in their living room, we can see things like improved distance because we can increase range of motion, or we can see increased revenue for the pro because we're adding more tools to our toolbox. We can also see extended membership careers. The thing is, we don't want to lose members as a club, but we don't want to lose members due to injury, because that's something that we can turn around. So ultimately, what we've done is we've created a platform that helps professionals, academies, and clubs provide fitness in a much simpler way. So pretty much like a launch monitor tracks ball and club, what we do is we track the body, and then we provide the player with great drills, exercises, programs, so they can help move better and play better. Now, ultimately, we've had the honors of working with multiple professionals. We've got great partnerships now with the PGA of Finland and other types of federations, etc. And we're really excited to be here to be able to talk to you guys, and hopefully we'll be able to provide some really good insights and some valuable content. Some of the things that me and Henrik are going to cover today is going to be around the fundamentals of golf fitness. We're not going to be able to be golf fitness professionals in just, one session, but giving you some clear insights. We want to talk a little bit about how we can incorporate assessments to create a really professional impact. We'll talk about some case studies, like how is this done in real life? And then also, how can we attract new customers and make sure that our business really thrives? So making golf fitness a natural part of our lesson experience is really, really important. And there's multiple ways of doing it in that sense. When we talk about it today, we know that the whole concept of this holistic approach really makes a lot of sense. And if we look at it from Henrik's perspective, you've been doing this for years now. What are some of the takes that you've seen? What have been some of the challenges that you've seen with working, with golf fitness, etc.?
I would say that the third point here on the list is the one that comes back all the time. The time factor. Both, that could be seen from two perspectives. It could be seen from the coach's perspective. It takes too long, because we all know that a physical change takes a lot of time. We know that if we want to make somebody change their range of motion, for instance, they're going to be needing to work on that for quite a long period of time before we see a substantial change. And they come to us and they want their slice to be solved within 5 swings. We all know that. So we need to figure out a way to actually get them to work long term, as well as solving the problem short term, and actually getting them to work with good habits. As Chris said before, the thing of 15 minutes a day, 3 times a week, that could change so many things for us as a coach when it comes to getting a student that is better prepared for the swing changes that we want them to make. And from a student's perspective, it's also the time factor. I don't want to buy a gym card. I don't want to have to buy new gym clothes. I don't want to do this and this and that. I just want to play golf. But if we can educate them as well in the physical part of the game as the technical part of the game, if we can educate them to just the fact to get them to warm up before they start to hit golf balls or before a golf round, if we can get them to do that, they're going to be better prepared. And if we can get them to have better habits throughout their golf game, that's going to change so many things. And the fact that we as coaches maybe don't feel confident in our own physical abilities when it comes to showing stuff, when it comes to screening. I mean, that's something that we need to work on as well as coaches, because we all can hit a golf ball. That's not a problem. And since we can hit a golf ball, we can also move quite a bit better than most of the people that come to us. So we don't have to feel that challenge either. So I'm going to say that the challenges are a few, and the challenges are mainly because of the fact that physical change takes longer than technical change. But if we can get that integrated into our academy and get that to be a natural part of the academy, we are so far ahead of the pack.
And I think from our perspective is like really understanding what the needs are for a pro. I mean, what we've tried to do is make sure that if you don't feel confident, we want to turn that around and make sure that you do feel confident. And, you know, like you tell me, Henrik, I mean, when you interview professionals and they say, I don't know everything about the body. And then you turn around and say, do you know everything about the swing? You know what? I don't. So you can always jump into things, unsure how to package it, the whole financial question. And that's also something that we turn around and make sure that professionals know exactly what to do. And something that has taken too long now is something you can do very quickly and also very easily. Now, we know, again, that we're great at both the technical side of things. We know that we're great at doing, you know, the equipment side of things as well. But in the fitness world, you know, we can make a really professional impact. And we look at it as 3 simple steps when we talk about fitness. And the first thing we got to do is we got to have some type of an assessment. It's like when you guys take care of a student, you just don't go ahead and start changing everything before they even hit a ball. You know, you want to first assess them. You ask them questions. You go through some technical drills. You might put on a launch monitor. You might be filming them. Same thing when it comes to the body. It could very easily become such a natural part of what you're doing. And the assessment sets a really professional kind of a point to what we're doing. The next step is feedback. You don't want to just tell a player that, hey, you're stiff. You want to give them some facts. This is what's going on. This is what you can improve. And then from there, we want to give them some drills, something that they can take with them to go home with. And I've been there myself. I've screened a player and then, you know, hey, I'm going to get back to you. I'm so backed up with lessons. I'm going to get back to you in like 6 weeks. No one wants to wait for 6 weeks. They want their stuff right here and there. And that's what we've tried to do, is make sure that everything is just automated. And as soon as you click enter, then the players' programs are going to be launched to their platforms. So the first step when it comes to the assessment, now there's multiple ways of looking at it. But if we break it down, Henrik, maybe you can just kind of, from a professional's perspective, like, let's just break down the swing a little bit. We know that because this is important when it comes to some of our screens and how we look at it. We look at the 3 planes of motion.
Yeah, and this is maybe an image that divides at least the teachers' social media world right now. If you look at an image like this, and you're on the side that see, oh, they are doing everything differently, or you're on the other side where I'm at. When I look at this picture, I see so many similarities. I see the 3 players moving in the 3 planes of motion that you showed on the previous picture, that they are rotating, they are bending forward and backwards, and they are side bending to some extent, which means that, yeah, if you look at where the golf club and where their hands are, they're in different positions. I can see that. But if you look at the body, if you take away the arms and the golf club, which are essential for the technical part, I'm well aware of that. But if you look at only how the body moves, they're moving. Every golfer that, if you look at the Hall of Famers throughout time, they look pretty much identical when it comes to movement in these 3 planes of motion. And since we work with a lot of golfers that aren't swinging the golf club as well as these 3 guys here on the picture, we have to assess where there is a leakage in range of motion. And there's either a leakage where you're supposed to be stable or where you're supposed to be mobile. So if you move to that picture, you can see that every other segment of your body. When we go from the foot up to the all the way out to your fingers, you see that every other segment is either stable or mobile, which means that our three main focus areas with Kinexit are the ankle, the hip joint, and the T-spine, which are the three green areas closest to the ground, if you want to look at it that way. So if you lack the ability to move in these three areas, you are gonna, because most of our golfers, whether they are good golfers or they've just started to play, they know how a golf swing is supposed to look like. They've seen golf on TV, they've played with other people. So they know how they are supposed to move. So they have some kind of idea where the club is supposed to be and how they're supposed to coordinate their body. And if we lack range of motion in the segments that are supposed to be mobile, we're going to assess that in segments that are supposed to be stable. And that are segments that are very much prone to injury if they start to move in ranges that they're not supposed to. So for instance, I have, and I guess you all have heard that so many times, you get a client that's complaining about back pain, and mostly it's lower back pain. And I would say that in 99 cases out of 100, their root cause of the problem is not in their lower back. It's either in their ability to move their T-spine or the ability to move their hip joint. Those are two segments that are supposed to be very mobile. And if they're not moving as they're supposed to, the player is going to try to get that range of motion in their lumbar spine instead, in the lower back. And that segment is that's not made to move. That is like a fist. And if you are really, 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 really good and you have a lot of movement in your lumbar spine, you have like 2 degrees in between each vertebrae, which is nothing. But you have a lot of possibilities in your T-spine or in your hip joint. So if we can get the stable segments to be stable, to anchor you and to anchor your mobile segments, then we can get the technical changes that we want to make. We can implement them so much faster.
So if we break it down and look at it from a Kinexit perspective, we have tried to create a smorgasbord or create a different type of screen or a way of assessment depending on the situation. So let's say that I'm short on time. I've got a student in front of me and I want to just get a good understanding of what's going on. Well, then we've got our express assessment. It takes about 3 to 5 minutes to do. If you got a 25-minute lesson, easily you can do that. You don't have to leave the hitting bay. If you have a serious golfer, he's bought a very large package. He's expecting to really get a good assessment here. Well, we've got our mobility screen, which really goes into depth, a lot more measurements, a lot more kind of collecting data. You might have a junior and you want to get a really good understanding of all components. Well, then we've got multiple screens for power and endurance and speed, etc. So depending on the situation, you can fit the screening to fit that, basically. And to give you a little bit of a tease or give you an understanding, the key thing here is we want to make sure that if the player can move, what's happening in these different segments, and then, of course, give the player feedback and give the player drills they can improve with. Now, we won't have time to go through every screen with Kinexit. If you're interested, we'll happily guide you through it, both personally or in group. So this is just to give you a little bit of a taste. Now, our express assessment takes about 5 tests. It takes about 3 minutes to do. Here we're kind of identifying the typical limitations connected to the swing. Simple yes and no answers. And here, basically, we're looking at 3 different types of gradings. We've got a green button, a yellow button, and a red. So we're going to be guiding you through this. If you want, you can stand up and kind of get a feel for it as well. Probably nothing that's revolutionary. It gives us a pretty good feedback. So we won't be able to see you, but if you want to stand up and have a feel for it, please do. Now, the first test is being able to tilt your pelvis. So in a golf posture, we want the player to be able to tilt their pelvis. Imagine you've got a belt buckle and you want this belt buckle to move forward and backward, or basically up and down. Now, what we're looking for here is the player to do this, basically be able to move. A lot of players, they basically drive their whole pelvis forwards and backwards. They have no motion in this tilting. And what we're doing here is we're looking at it from 3 perspectives. Green means you can do it. Yellow means that you can do it, but you're shaking quite a lot. And red means that you basically just don't have the motion. You're just driving that pelvis backwards and forwards. And what we're trying to teach here for students is the ability to move. And we want to find a neutral position. Too much of the arching just is not very comfortable over time. And too much of the opposite will just cause, you know, a lot of just limitations and restrictions in being able to rotate. So that's the first test. The second test we're looking at is the ability to separate the lower body from the upper body. So 3 gratings. Again, Henrik's going to show us how it looks like. So we're basically rotating that pelvis and we're trying to maintain that stability in the upper body. For many players, it's going to look like this. You're either basically moving the hips side to side, or everything's moving at the same time. Or we can basically see that there's a lot of excessive kind of rumba kind of a move. So green for many players will look like this. There's basically good stable position in the upper body. The lower body is really moving a lot. Yellow usually means that there is movement, but there's either some pretty clear distance or differences between the left and right rotation. Or you can see that the player's really struggling to try to do this. And then red, again, is you've got your different types of limitations. No separation, or you've got a lot of side-to-side movement, etc. Now, the third test here is the opposite. We want to instead rotate the upper body, maintain the lower body stable, and it's going to look something like this. So in this case, green means that the player can rotate nice and easily, the lower body's still, and yellow means that they can do it, but they're struggling, or that you can see a very clear difference between a left and right rotation. And then red usually means that there is no separation. Everything's moving at the same time, or you can see their arms just moving. The upper body's pretty much still. Any other type of angles there, Henrik, that you would see?
Nah, I would just say that normally a lot of people can do the upper body rotation where they get to anchor their lower body, and pretty much no one from the first time can do the separation of the lower body stabilizing their upper body because they don't know how to do it.
The fourth test we're looking at is just a simple toe touch. So feet together, and we're going to get the player to try to touch their toes as well as they possibly can. Now, this is a red or a green. Green means they can do it. Red means they cannot do it. Here we're just looking at overall posture. Are their hamstrings getting involved? Can they draw their pelvis backwards? Can they, but exactly like that. And then the final test is a balancing test. Can you stand on one foot for 10 seconds? We want that opposite knee to be 90 degrees. And here again, roughly 10 seconds. And then once the player's done that, we switch feet and do the same thing on the opposite side. Now, with this perspective, what the player is going to get is feedback in sense of, okay, where am I right now? And the good thing here is we don't have to leave the hitting bay. We don't have to go ahead and move away. We can do this from going through interview to going through the technical side of things to then basically being able to do the screen and move directly to back to the lesson. So if the player is holding a golf club and they're already hitting balls, we can get them to maintain the golf club, they can just put it here and they can do their tests, and they can then pivot over to hitting balls again. What happens when you're done is that you get a golf fitness handicap. You get a good way of presenting some feedback to the player. Now, the more red you have, the higher the golf fitness handicap. The more green you have, the lower the golf fitness handicap. The main goal here and the objective is to go from red to green in this side of things. Now, when it comes to the mobility screening, just to give you a bit of a sense, here we're looking a little bit deeper. It's 7 tests. This takes about 12 to 15 minutes to do. This is more for a serious golfer. And here we're looking at the different planes. We need a wall, we need a measuring tape. And just like we see on the image here with Henrik, is in this particular test, we're testing the ability to bend backwards, but with an internally rotated position. So in this case, the goal is to move away from the wall as far as we can. And we're going to try to get that goal, that threshold, or to get to where my max is until I start doing other things. We take that measurement, we put that into Kinexit. We're going to do a forward reach, we're going to do a backward reach, we're going to side bend, and we're going to get the rotation through our foot positioning. Then we're going to get that 3D movement of the golf swing. Great test, gives us a lot of data, and then we can provide really, really good drills for the player. The thing is, it takes a little bit more time. So depending on the player, the situation, then we've got different screens to fit that. Now, ultimately, once we're done, we're going to give feedback again. And it's a great way to just collect all the different types of components so the player can improve and get better. When it comes to it, we're really, really passionate about the screening and the process. We understand that timing is so important. That's been one of the big red flags when we started this journey and started the company. That's why we want to make sure that this process is simple, it's fast, and it's quick to do. So the first step when you want to start working with a player and you might be using Kinexit, you want them to be, they need to have an account. So we want to share a membership with them. And once you share that membership, that should take about 10 seconds to get the player registered and up and running. So now we've got the screening. So depending on which screening you choose, we talk about between 3 and 12 minutes. And then from feedback to the student starting their training, or we can move on, this process shouldn't take more than 5 to 15 minutes to get started. Now, Henrik, if we can be a little bit practical here, if we just kind of review some of the different aspects, and I'm thinking that we can go through some cases. I've got 2 cases for you. Yep. The first case is a senior kind of mid-handicap golfer who has bought the 1 lesson, okay? So just kind of guide us through, like, practically how you would go through, helping that player and assessing them and so forth.
Well, since I work with this type of integration into all my lessons, whether it be a single lesson or it be a lesson package in some way or form, I am going to start off as all you guys do. I'm going to start off by getting them to hit golf balls while I interview them or have a discussion. And we're going to see limitations. I mean, we're going to see them hitting the golf ball badly. And we're going to be, I would then start by just doing some of the screens that are in the express assessment on the hitting bay. Just maybe do one and then getting them to hit a couple of other balls and then maybe do another one. And if this turns out to be, I have a little notepad in my studio that I can just tick boxes for the express assessment. So if I do that and I feel like, okay, this single lesson would be way better off as the first lesson within a package, I can then transit that lesson experience into a lesson package by just entering the results of the screening in the system afterwards. So we talk a little bit about range of motion. We talk a little bit about, I mean, I have a big mirror in the studio as well, so they can see themselves move. And when they start to understand that, okay, I want to change this technically, but I'm not able to do this, what Henrik is asking me to do, without a golf club and a golf ball and all that other stuff that are integrated into hitting a golf ball. I can't move my body. I might be forced to assess that in some way or form. So if it's just a single lesson, I always try to educate them that they're supposed to be working with their body. And I give them a couple of drills. And I am I'm totally convinced that if they do that, they're going to see improvement. And if they see improvement, they're going to come back to me. And then I have my lesson package. And then I can start working with putting the data into the system, getting them on say, for instance, a 3-month plan within Kinexit, and getting them to create those great habits that I talked about earlier. So I screen everyone, whether it be a full screening or whether it be just bits and pieces of the screening, to educate them in one way or another in the fact that they have to assess this, because the body is the only part of their golf equipment that they're going to use for every single shot.
How about if you had, how would it be different than, if we had someone who has a lesson package? It might be, middle-aged, low handicap. Would your process change anything there?
Yeah, definitely. If they have a lesson package, for the last 5 years now, if you buy one of my lesson packages, you cannot get away from the fact that I am screening you and you get a practice plan for your golf fitness. That's just non-negotiable. So then I start off with the bigger screening, and I do the screening along with the interview before we start to hit golf balls. So then we have 15 minutes in the beginning of the lesson, which is the interview and the physical screening. And I'm not, because what I don't want is I don't want them to start hitting golf balls, maybe not hitting the golf ball as they want to do, and then start to make compensations, because the golfer that you describe here in the image, they are often, when they come into a teaching bay or they come to take lessons, some part of them want to show the teacher that they actually can hit golf balls. So then they start to compensate. And then you don't get the natural raw material that you actually have to work with. So for me, then, if we have a package, they are well aware of, if they buy a package with me, we start off with the screening process. So that's the main difference.
And if we look at it from this, just to simplify, basically, there's multiple ways of assessing the player, and depending on the situation, the package, the single lesson, the player in front of us, we don't have to go big screening on small occasions. And at the same time, if we have someone who spent a fair amount of money on buying a package, then let's make sure we give them a really professional kind of first approach. The feedback, you guys are most likely using lots of great tools already. So put together, what you get feedback from TrackMan, from what you were doing from video. You might be using a Kinexit. So putting this all together to present to the player really provides a great professional kind of perspective on things. Now, when it comes to it, we want to talk a little bit about the movement side of things as well. And in Kinexit, there's lots and lots of different programs. I think we've got a little over 1,000 drills, lots of different programs and themes to make sure we understand. If you do a screening with Kinexit, the main priority is to make sure that we fix, or we try to work with, the limitations, and then we can build up on things. So you might have lots of limitations with that we pick up from your express assessment. So improving your pelvic tilt, etc. We also have programs where players can work on their flexibility, their stability, their strength. If they have 15 minutes or 45 minutes, all these things they can tweak for every session, making sure they get lots of great content. Nevertheless, you guys have probably a really, really wide spectrum of tools that you have in your toolbox. What we want to try to do and how we complement that toolbox would be around this whole aspect of goal fitness, making sure that players have the right warm-up programs, have the right drills, things that they can do at home, and making sure that they can improve. It would be very easy to give you like, do this drill, but there's a billion types of ways to make an exercise. It also is so many ways we can help a player. There's no one size fits all, but there are some clear principles. One thing is that if a player is lacking a lot of mobility and stability, we want to start there and gain that and build that foundational level, kind of like building a house. If we don't have a solid foundation, eventually the house will start, collapsing. We can then build up strength and function and power and speed. And we know that this demographic that I talked about before, with grown-ups, with adults, with seniors, they do so well with just restoring some of that range of motion. From a Kinexit perspective then, again, lots of different types of drills. We're trying to target the right types of areas depending on what they need to move, what they need to improve. So if you have limitations in separating your upper body from your lower, well, of course, we'll give them drills for that. Or if they have a hard time tilting their pelvis or bending forwards, etc. In Kinexit, it could look very much like this. Everything's very easy to use. We've really focused on the user friendliness. So if you have issues with tilting your pelvis, these are how some of these drills could look like. If you look at kind of that perspective of, training, we also know that there's a business side of things as well. We know that we can't only have great tools, we also need to be able to make sure that it's packaged correctly so we can generate revenue. Really key important here. And again, when we talk about total game fitting, we're talking about integrating this holistic approach with movement, technique, and with the equipment side of things. There's multiple ways that we see Kinexit being used, and everything from the first initial lesson to lesson packages to courses to winter training. Again, so many ways. If we look at it, we want to go, showcase a few kind of case studies. So we're not just talking, we're just kind of giving you some great kind of insights as well. Henrik mentioned before that if you have a single lesson, the key thing is to call or fix the problem, because you want them to buy another lesson most likely. And that could lead to them saying, hey, this was a great lesson. Where do I go from here? Well, they might only want to buy the lesson, or that's what they can afford. Well, then we want to give them maybe digital tools or things that they can improve with. That single lesson might lead into a lesson package. And how we look at a lesson package could look like this. Well, the first initial lesson, of course, you have your swing analysis, you ask them questions, what are your goals, etc. You involve the body screening in here. They will automatically get their goal fitness program. You might check what's in their bag. And then with the follow-up sessions, it all depends on how you want to set that up. That's your call. But what we'll provide is the homework for the players so they can improve. You might have a course where you start the course off with screening 8 players, which is very, very doable. On the second lesson, you might teach them how to warm up. And you might do that with Kinexit. You might have a goal fitness station where 2 players are putting, 2 players are hitting balls, 2 players might be doing some drills at the end of the day where you're rotating them so you can get the best of all worlds. Ultimately, what we see when it comes to packaging is there's kind of 2 sides of this. A lot of professionals are kind of going the route of the more you buy, the more discount you get. There's nothing wrong with this. You can definitely continue doing that. But what we're seeing a lot of more professionals doing with going towards a holistic approach is being more that we're providing more value into the total package to make it sound like, wow, I'm getting so much value for what I'm buying. So I'm getting baseline testing. I'm getting drills and technique. I'm getting help with my body. My equipment is getting checked. I'm getting follow-up sessions, etc. It could look something like this. So one of the academies that we're proud to be working with, this is one way of setting it up, but there's 1,000 ways to do it. They have a screening lesson with 75 minutes. They have a pretty extensive screening process. So they also do a biomechanical assessment too. You get 3 lessons. You get 2 types of memberships, one with Kinexit, one with Coach Now. And then again, we're trying to provide value here. So it's just a great way to add more value and hopefully be able to charge more to be able to earn more. Now, Henrik, I mean, you've come far with your packaging and you've done it really, really well, both from website perspective, like you make sure that players know that you're very into the holistic approach. So how the body works, how you've kind of put it together, making sure that fitness, equipment, all this stuff is a natural part. Maybe just give us a couple of insights and so forth about it.
No, but I mean, that hasn't been an easy process. That has been something that I've had to set out a path for my academy. That is what I believe in. And I am a true believer in, if you want to talk the talk, you have to walk the walk as well. So if it's important for me to have a physical part of my teaching, I have to communicate that. That can't be a surprise for the student that turns up and has bought a package, and the first thing I do is screen them, and they're not comfortable with getting screened. So I need to communicate what they're what's supposed to happen when they come have a lesson with me. And I've come as far now as, if you buy single lessons from me, you have 1 prize. If you have a lesson package, if you add those lessons up, it's actually more expensive to buy a package than to buy single lessons. But I'm also very, very thorough in communicating that if you buy a package, you get this as well. You get your periodized plan of golf fitness training. You get your Coach Now account with videos, with follow-ups, with everything like that. You don't get that in a single lesson. And that's also a part for me to have a single lesson. And if that single lesson turns out to be a lesson package in the end, I can add to that afterward. So for me, the communication has been the greatest difference in the packaging over the last few years, that I communicate that this is what I stand for. This is what you get if you come practice with me. And I'm totally convinced that I can make you a better golfer if you then focus on all these 3 pieces of the puzzle: the fitness perspective, the technical aspect, and the equipment, because all 3 of them are going to contribute to what you do on the golf course.
I mean, great insights. And again, working with so many professionals and academies, everyone has their own DNA, every way of working. This is one way, just to give you some inspiration. Volkswagen Golf Academy have done really well. I give you a little screenshot before, but in all their different packages, there is a clear kind of starting point where you get screened, both technically, equipment-wise, and fitness-wise. Other professionals like to give an explanation. So if you have a small, medium, large, in the small, just to give you an example, our smallest package is designed for students who want a quick and functionally useful analysis of their swing and their swing technique and their physical ability. So even here, we're clear on and making sure that this is a natural part. They will get 2 months of Kinexit in the medium package. They'll get 3 months of Kinexit in the large. So there's just lots of great ways. And all these things that I'm showing are very clearly stated in our knowledge center that professionals will have access to. Now, again, timing wise, I think we hit our 50-minute mark there, Henrik, like we usually do. We're pretty spot on there with time. Guys, it's been great. I want to give you a little bit more insight, of course, but just to round things up, I think a student's body, if we look at it, or a student's fitness side of things, is really a big door opener. So if you've come far with that and you're already working with fitness, great. Really, really proud of you, and I'm really glad that you're doing that. What we see with professionals like Henrik that have really reached far and come very far, what we might be able to do is shave off a lot of time, may help get you the tools to be able to work with more players. If you're just starting off, like, I don't know where to start, then this is a great way to kind of get things going. If you're curious to kind of grow your business, or like, I want to, do something new, or I want to add this component in, there's no need to kind of wait. I would say that every golfer is unique. So it would be easy to just like create one program and give that program to every player. You'll probably have a few golfers, but at the end of the day, everyone has their own limitations. Someone might have a poor back, someone might have a tight hip, etc. And these things we want to customize. If you're into custom fitting when it comes to equipment, we know that it creates a lot of results. We can't just give the same specs to every golfer. And then also ultimately adding it to your toolbox will create a lot of professional impact. We've seen it for so many years now, what it does and how it works. So I think there's a lot of things to win. When it comes to Kinexit, just to give you a little bit of a deeper understanding how it works and how to get started if you're interested, etc. Now, we've partnered now with the PGA Finland. I'm really proud to be doing so. And a little bit about it. First of all, we've got different types of plans. If you're a PGA professional that is just started, or you might have a smaller kind of business with not very many students, or you might have a very big academy with multiple professionals, lots of students that you're rotating, we can make sure to fit that. We've got a certification program or an educational program so that you know exactly how to use it, how to package it. Now, the certification is to create trust and to make sure that you feel comfortable. And those are done in multiple different ways. And then, of course, once you're done, you can add golf fitness with ease. So our certification is mostly done online. Depending on the interest, we also talk with the PGA of Finland to see, like, if there's a lot of you, then we might even have a physical event in the near future where we can invite multiple professionals and have a full day session. But ultimately, we'll go through the fundamentals of golf fitness, go through some biomechanics. We'll go do a deep dive into our in-lesson screenings. We'll go through some of the pieces, how we can give feedback. We're going to go through how we can support and help your business with our knowledge center, etc. So the key things is you feel comfortable, you know how to package it, and you know how to communicate it. And if you do that, you can do really, really well. Our sessions online usually they're like 2 to 3 hours. We have multiple certifications that we do ongoing every week. So it's just a matter of getting in contact with us, booking one of those sessions, and then you're off and running. Our knowledge center is great because we notice that not only do we need a great tool, we also need to have a lot of great information. So knowledge center is for pros to be able to just collect it, make sure that you can get inspiration. What can I use for my website? What can I use when it comes to packaging? How can I, get tutorials? So really great way to get information, lesson packages, social media content, etc. When it comes to our plans, so for those pros that feel like, I'm pretty interested, I'd like to learn a little bit more, a little bit about that. We've got different types of plans depending on the situation. Now, our lowest plan is, for instance, our startup plan. We've got 100 student months that's included into that plan. And you're probably thinking, what is a student month? Well, a student month is like a credit. Now, you can use these credits however you please. Now, in Henrik's case, he mentioned before that we have different situations. So we might have a single lesson. The person hasn't bought anything related to fitness. They want Henrik to fix his swing. And Henrik there, he might want to, he notices that this player is limited. So we might give them access to Kinexit. Maybe not for a month, maybe 7 days just to get them started. So that's a free trial, and you can give as many free trials as you like. But Henrik might then get the call back and say, hey, this lesson was great. I'd like to buy a lesson package. Then in that lesson package, 2 months of Kinexit's included. And then you use those 2 months, then you'll have 98 months left on your account. And then you keep on doing that until you have 0 months. And then you can either refill or there's a new contract period. If you go for our starter, then you have 300 months. If you have our standard, 600 months. So you get the point. The key thing is if you have a little bit fewer kind of students, start slow. If you have a bigger kind of academy, then we can go a little bit bigger. Now, when it comes to it, again, it can be used in multiple ways. I could sell Kinexit months separately. So if I'm in that single lesson and a student says, you know what, I would love to buy a package, but I'm going to be going to Spain for 4 months and I just don't have the time. But I would like to, train and continue, improving. Can I buy Kinexit from you separately? Of course. So that student might buy like 3 months from the pro, and then our recommended sales price is around 15 euros per month. Or you might include it into a package where you have 3 different types. You might have small, medium, large, or you might have a course where you have maybe it's an 8-week course, 2 months of Kinexit's included. You might have 15 students in that, and that's a great way to generate revenue through these things as well. I must say, winter season is a really great way. If you're not doing a full year program with your students, winter is a great phase to work on technique and fitness. Now that we've partnered with the PGA of Finland, we've actually really come up with a great solution there. We want to make sure that you guys really get taken care of. So for members of the PGA of Finland, what we've done is we're going to be giving a complimentary license upgrade. This means that you will basically getting a lot more than what you pay for. So if you, in case you want to start with our smallest option, well, then you'll be paying for our startup, but you'll be getting 300 months basically. So great way to think about it, but just to give you some incentive to, get started if you're curious and you feel like you want to add a component like this. Break it down just to give you a sense. You can either choose to do this annually, you'll save a little bit on that, or if you want to do it monthly. And breaking down the different months, as I mentioned, and then of course our recommended sales price is around 15 euros. You can choose to sell it for a little bit higher or lower. It's your call. We don't get involved between the pro and the student. So that's your deal. You might have had a student last year that might have bought equipment for a lot of money. Well, you might want to just give them 3 months as a pro bono and a way to be kind. Or all those things really is up to you how you want to set it up. Again, being able to, raise your lesson value, or if it's just to sell it, key things of doing it, but multiple ways. But we know that the business model is very, very important. That's why we want to kind of focus on it to make sure that you guys have a full understanding how to set it up. Thanks so much for your time. It's been a blast. If you have more, I'm going to be answering one of the questions we've got here. If you have more questions, feel free to use the chat. What I would recommend now is I'm going to give you a couple of links here to use. The first link here is if you want to kind of learn a little bit more. It's a form, no strings attached. It's just saying, hey, I'm pretty interested. I'd like to learn a little bit more, or I am interested. I would like to get started. And then either myself or Henrik or another part of our team will be reaching out, and then we'll be kind of, if you need more of a deeper dive through how Kinexit works, or we'll go through the specs and details. Feel free to use that form just to kind of let us know if you're interested, etc. If you want to try Kinexit, you can very much go on to kinexit.com and go to coach, and then there you'll find a button called try now. I'm also going to be adding that link to the form here, or to the piece, and I'll do that in just a second here. And that link's coming right there. So the second link that I've added is if you just want to try Kinexit. It's a 30-day trial. You get 10 months. Try it out. Give a feel for it. You'll automatically get access to our knowledge center. But we're here. If you want like a 20, 30-minute demo, we'd love to spend that time with you to give you a good sense of how to use it and so forth. So use us, please do. Any questions, any feedback? Did you think this presentation was kind of valuable? Did you get some insights? So feel free to drop your comments, your questions, do that in the chat. If you do, please do that. While that, I'm going to be answering one of the questions here we got. So Kari sent us a question, a great one actually. If I'll start to use Kinexit, then is it possible to ask questions from you and to focus on different movements? Many movements are very simple, but there could be things that what a pro would like to know more specifically. That's a great question. So our tests are standardized. We've actually done a lot of research and we've spent a lot of time with pros. And there is that small clique of pros that actually want to do something like what you're doing. But that small clique of pros we're talking very few. So what we've done instead is we've standardized things. So we've got multiple ways of like a menu of different types of screenings. And then from there, you can pick and choose. And then once you've chosen that, you've plugged in the data, then Kinexit will then be giving the player lots of different types of drills and exercises. But with that said, we're always open for feedback. If there might be tests, there might be things that we might be missing. A lot of the things that we've done today is actually built around the feedback that we continuously get. So always open to improve and get better. So I hope that kind of answers your question. If you don't,
I can actually add to that as well, since the tests are standardized, but all the drills are. I mean, I've been working with TPI prior, for instance, or I've been working with a lot of other types of screening batteries, and the thing with Kinexit is that all the drills that you get are dynamic, which means that you have to get into and out of a certain motion. And that is, I mean, if we see, for instance, you have a limitation in tilting your pelvis, if we can get the player to work dynamically on that rather than just sitting down, isolating the specific part of the pelvis, we can get them to work dynamically. We often get an effect in parts that we didn't screen specifically, if you know what I mean. So since all the drills are dynamic, we can get a lot of effect on the golfers that are the big part of the golfers in our golf club, for instance. And just to be clear on another part, I mean, if I have an elite professional golfer, of course the express assessment isn't enough. And you guys, I mean, Chris has no problem with me saying that either, because if we are at that 0.1% of golfers that are at the top elite level, we need to do other things with them as well. I mean, we maybe need to take them to a facility that has a 3D system that we don't have at home to be able to do those little small changes within their golf technique. And that's the same with the physical part as well. So I would say Kinexit, the standardized test, they fit 99% of the golfers that I'm working with. And for the top 1%, I need to go the extra mile, but I need to do that from a equipment and swing technique point of view as well. So that's nothing special when it comes to the fitness part.
Great perspective. Hey, is everyone if you have any more questions, feel free to use the chat. You can also email us as well. It's just chris@kinexit.com. It's been an absolute pleasure to have all of you on board. Glad to see so many of you that have joined in. I hope you felt this session was valuable and we could give you some good insights. Looking forward to hear from you, and we can't wait to see if we can provide any more value and perhaps even provide some more assistance when it comes to this holistic approach. Hope everyone has a great rest of the day. Enjoy the upcoming weekend, the upcoming season now that we're well into. Looking forward to hearing you. Hey, Henrik, thanks so much for joining.
Thank you, Chris, and thank you to everyone taking time out of your schedules to listen to us too. That's always a pleasure to be talking in front of colleagues that are in the same situation that I am or we are. So thank you all for taking time out of your schedule to listen to us. That's always a pleasure.
Love it. All right, everyone. Have a great day. We'll talk soon.
Take care, everyone.